What is going on, guys? It is CodedRed here, and welcome to episode 1 of my brand new advanced Spigot coding for 1.16. We're taking over from the last series when I talked about 1.15 plugins, and we're talking about all 1.16 Spigot API. We're gonna go back through some of the plugins that I did in the 1.15 series, but most importantly, we're gonna go over some new cool things. We're gonna go over something I like to call the tiny game. It's sort of like a mini game, except it's smaller than a mini game. There is no arena based, and it's just like you're in the lobby and all of a sudden this little tiny game begins. So we're gonna create a lot of different tiny games. Our first episode is gonna be about tag. So I went ahead and I coded a little tag tiny game. So basically what we do to start off the tag, you just press type in tag start, and then it'll start our tag. It'll pick a random person in the server to be it. As you can see, it picked my account to the right to be it first, and it gives us 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to survive this tag game. If the person who's tagged, so this account right here, so if the person who is tagged tags someone else, they become it. A little flash happens, and now the new timer begins with 5 minutes, but now CodedRed is it. If I go into my other account and I hit him again, he will be it, and then timer resets. After 5 minutes, the game will end, and we can actually change that time in the code. But once the game is over, the loser will not receive anything, and the winner, we can go ahead and give them some items or something like that. So without further ado, let's get right into the code. This is going to be a pretty easy plugin. Like I said, tiny plugins are more like a lobby mini game, while mini games, have arenas. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, to get started, I went ahead and created the project already. I'm in the project tag. I went ahead and created a main class called tag. And I went ahead and made the plugin.yml. Nothing special in here. I just registered the command called tag. I also created an empty package called models, and we're going to create our first class in there. This is going to be the game class. So our whole entire thing is running on this game class. This is how our entire tag game works. So the way tag actually works, the way I coded it, is every single time someone's it and that timer is going down, that is a runnable. So they have 5 minutes to find someone else and tag them. After that 5 minutes, they lose. But if they do tag someone, the old runnable will end and a new one will begin. And the way we handle that is with an integer called task. This is basically our runnables ID. Next, we need a private player. We'll call it, and that's the person that is obviously it. And then the boolean is playing, so we need a boolean called is playing, and this is basically is the game on or off. Once we have those, not is playing, whoops, my bad. Once we have those, we'll go ahead and create a constructor. We're not passing anything in, but we are initializing stuff in our constructor. We're initializing this .task. We're initializing this to -1, and it's really important that we do -1, and this is also really important. Our code will not work without these two being initialized. Basically, -1 meaning that there is no game playing right now, and is playing is false means there's no game playing right now. I guess we can probably just use this boolean instead of doing this, but hey, wait, I already coded it like this. All right, once we have that done, we can actually skip a lot of time and save a lot of pain by just hovering over our task and pressing create getter and setter. Press OK, and that'll create our getter and setter method for us. And we can do this for all 3 variables. Create getter and setter for it. Press OK. And it creates our getter and setter for it. I'm pretty sure you can do this in IntelliJ too, but that'll just save us a lot of time. So now we have all these different methods for getting and setting these variables. Once we do that, we can actually get to our main code, and the first one we're gonna code is the picking of the first player. So public player pick first it. This is going to go through the entire online players, and it's going to pick the first person that is, you know, going to be it. And to do this, there's a few ways you can do it. You can kind of transfer the bucket.get online players to a list and then go through that list randomly and pick a player and then make him it. We're going to do it all in one line because this is kind of, I think this is a really good, you know, way of doing it, and also a really neat way for you guys to memorize and use in other plugins. So we're going to get the online players. We're going to stream that value. So we're putting it into a stream, and then we're going to skip. So we're going to skip, and we're actually going to make it, so we need to cast an int. It's going to be a little confusing here. So I'm casting an integer, and then I'm doing another open parentheses, and I'm doing a bucket.get online players dot size, and I'll move this down a line, make it a little easier to see, dot size, and then I'm staying inside the parentheses here, dot size, and I'm multiplying that by math.random. And I'm going out of all the parentheses here, going out to the end, and doing dot find first, and then dot or else null. We don't have to worry about this or else because it's always going to return a player, and if it doesn't, then I don't know. If it doesn't, we're screwed, I guess. But this right here is going to return a random player from our online players. It's going to go through whatever size is. So if we have 10 players online, it's going to times 10 by our random number, which is going to be pick a random number between, you know, 1 and 10. And it's going to find our first it. So once we know our first it, we need to have a little method here for our scoreboard. I don't really want to talk much about this because I want to save kind of time on this video because it is quite a bit of code. But if you do want to learn more about scoreboards, I have a few videos on it. You can go ahead and check that out. I'll leave it in the description below. But the first thing we're going to do is create a scoreboard manager. Set that equal to a bucket.get scoreboard manager. Import that. Next, we need to say scoreboard board equals manager.get new board. Scoreboards work on this thing called objective. And it's pretty important that you import the right one. But board.register a new objective. And we need to pass in 3 things here. We can pass in 4, but we're passing 3. The first thing is the scoreboard kind of ID name. Just like how stone is called stone, that's this ID name. We're going to call our scoreboard tag scoreboard. It's not too important what you call it. The second one is sort of important. This is the criteria. And there's multiple criteria you can use. I went over this more in depth in another video, but we'll just call it dummy. If you don't have a criteria, we'll just call it dummy. Like I said, we're just doing one more, and this last one is going to be the name, the title of our scoreboard. This is going to be showing. So this is actually going to be the actual title of it, instead of just like the kind of a name. But we're going to go ahead and translate alter color codes. And I'll just say @A, time left, or you can say seconds left. Go ahead and import objective, and we're going to say obj set display slot display slot sidebar, and we're almost done here. Let's go ahead and create a score. So the main reason why I'm doing this is because I don't feel like whenever every second in the runnable, I don't want to create a new scoreboard, set it. I just want to get the current scoreboard and change the title. I feel that way it's a lot less laggy, and I mean it's way more productive. Finally, set the score to 0, return the board. Woo, okay, that is done. You want to go ahead and pause the video and take a second to copy that down. This is just going to create our scoreboard like you saw in the beginning of the video. To create a scoreboard, it doesn't have anything on it yet, doesn't have any seconds on it, because we're going to update this title in our runnable. All right. So before I code the runnable, do we want to code the end one? Yeah, we'll code it. Why not? So before we actually code the starting method, let's code the ending method, because we will be calling this one in our start, or in our run, I guess. So whenever the game is over, we're going to call this end method. What is it going to do? Most importantly, it's to set playing to false. Make sure you actually turn off the game. Secondly, let's get rid of that runnable. We're going to bucket.scheduler. We're going to cancel our get task. We're going to cancel our runnable. So that's why we're saving this task ID at the top here. We're going to cancel our runnable. That is our game. Two most important things there. And secondly, it's kind of just sending messages and stuff like that. So it.sendMessage. This is the person who's it. And obviously this person lost. So you lost. Sad face. They lost the game, but we have to make sure we set glowing to false. And this is an optional feature. Whenever, the way I did it was, whenever someone's it, they are glowing. That's like that white effect you saw in the beginning of the video. So if you are going to use this feature, make sure you set it to false whenever they lose, so they're not always glowing. And then lastly, let's make a for loop for player online bucket.getOnline players. And in here, we're just saying online dot set scoreboard to bucket dot get scoreboard manager dot get new scoreboard. I really don't understand why this API doesn't have a one that has like remove scoreboard. We do, however, have a way to remove scoreboard, and that's it right there. You set a new scoreboard that has no information in it, and that's how you remove a scoreboard. Kind of weird, but hey, it is what it is. If online does not equal it. So for everyone that is a winner, we're going to send the winners a message. And this is where you can kind of make it your own, to where you can send them money. If you put in vault, you can send them, you know, items. You can do whatever you want here. For the sake of tutorial, I'm just going to say, I'll just say this. Congrats. You won tag. Smiley face. And we're done with that method. So, for loop goes through every single player that's online. It removes all the scoreboards because the game is over. And if the player is not the person who was it, then we can send a message saying, congrats, you won. Like I said, you can go ahead and give them items, give them money, do whatever you want. Alright, so we created the get scoreboard, the end. Last but not least, the most important one, and this is the tagged method. Public void tagged, and we're tagging a player. So pass in a player. First things first, set playing to true. Then if the get task does not equal -1. So this means if it doesn't equal -1, and make sure you did set it to -1 in the constructor, or you can kind of just move this method, move this little line to the under this, and you say if it's playing is false, then blah blah blah. But if the task ID doesn't equal -1, let's go ahead and say bucket.getScheduler.cancel task. We're canceling our old runnable, and we're gonna replace it with a new one. So set it to player. It.set glowing. We set our new it. We're setting him glowing. And then we're going to go through every single player that is online. Online players. And we're going to do online.set scoreboard to get board. This is what I'm talking about. I don't want to go in my runnable and, you know, set a scoreboard every single second. I just want to do it right in the beginning. Right when someone gets tagged, we're setting a scoreboard to every single person that's online. It's a good way of doing it, I guess. So we're not doing it every second. We're kind of just doing it when someone gets tagged. A little less lag. But next, we need to actually create that runnable. So task equals a bucket.getScheduler dot schedule, and we're going to do sync repeating task. The first variable is the instance of our main class. Now, if you saw at the top, I did not pass in an instance of our main class. I probably could have. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but I didn't. And that's because I want to show you guys a static way of getting it, and that's tag. So our main class dot get plugin tag dot class. This is more of a static way of getting our instance of our main class. If you're like using a util or something like that. I mean, you know, static stuff, can't really recommend it, but hey, it's up to you guys. New runnable. The arg2 is going to be 0 and arg3 is going to be 20. 20 ticks equals 1 second. All right, add this method in here. So if you're new to runnables, the first value I put right here is how fast you want this runnable to start. I want it to start as soon as it's read. As soon as this method is called, I want this runnable to start. And the second number is going to be how many tickets in between the delay. So it's a repeating task, so it's going to run every 20 ticks, which is 1 second. Inside, actually, before we go in our runnable, we need to create our int time left. Set it equal to 300, and that is 5 minutes. If all I did was 5 times 60, that's 300. So 300 seconds. Inside our run method, pretty easy stuff. If time left is less than or equal to 0, that means the game is over. Game ended. So what we want to do is call this end method, and we want to return. If the time is not less than 0, or I mean if it isn't 0, we can say for loop player online bucket.get online players online.get scoreboard .get objective display slot .sidebar .set display name. Move down the line, and the name is going to be the exact same name, so you get this effect that the timer is going down. So I'm going to copy this, paste it in here, and right after this I'm going to say time left. Nope, plus time left. Move down the line again. Finally, we say time left minus minus. So it's kind of like a really simple way of getting that scoreboard going down. I guess we could have made a scoreboard that has like teams and then just affect that team scoreboard. You can go ahead and do whatever way you like. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. So our for loop is going to change that scoreboard for every single player and just move down a second each time. And just like that, our game is done. Whew. Now that our game class is done, we can go ahead and get some of the actual code done. So let's go ahead and create our tag command. This one's gonna be pretty simple. Private tag plugin public tag command tag plugin. So we're creating a little constructor right here. This dot plugin equals plugin. And the reason why I'm creating a constructor is because in our main class, let's go to our main class real quick. I'm going to have a public game here. Import that. So I'm able to get my game and see who's it and tag someone. You know, I'm able to use all our methods we just did. And in our enable, we need to say this game equals a new game. Make sure you have that code right there. All right. Tag command public boolean on command sender string them called label, and then an array of strings that are arguments. So if the sender is instance of our player, let's go ahead and do stuff. Otherwise, you're gonna say sender that's send message no. All right. First things first, let's create that player. Ooh. Wrong import. Make sure you're importing the one that has a little A next to it, the abstract class. Okay, create our player. Player. Cast of our player to the sender. And all I'm gonna do is you have a switch case right here. So if the case is 1, that means they want to start or end it. So I want to get this video kind of done. I don't want to make it too long. So we code this real quick. So if they're typing case 1, that means they're typing /tag start or they're typing /tag end. That's our only 2 commands. So otherwise they're typing a default. And what our default can say is player.sendMessage. ChatColor.red. Try /tag start or end. All right. Super easy stuff. To start the game, all we need to say is plugin.game.tagged. Who did we tag though? Well, we tagged plugin.game.pickFirstIt. And our game just started. We can go ahead and type in return true here. And then at the end of this one too, under this no, return true. So our game started. How do we end the game? Plugin.game.end. We can go ahead and send a message in there if you like. Player.sendMessage. I'm just gonna copy this. Game started. And then the game ended. Let's go to our main class. So that's it, guys. That is all we need for our command. And if you're, like I said, make sure you have this return true at the end. But just like that, our command is done. Let's go to our main class, register it in the onEnable. Also, make sure you put implements command executor. My bad. Executor at the top there. Make sure you have that so we're able to actually, use the command. So once you have the command registered, we're almost done. Just one more class to do. And this is our actual tag class. So tagged event. At the top, implements, listener. And this will be real fast. I know the video is running a little bit long, but this will be real quick. Same as before, we need a constructor, so I'm copying this constructor. And I'm changing this to tagged event. So we're gonna have 3 different events here. The first one's the most important one, public void on tag entity damage by entity event. This is one of the many different events that you can actually use for this whole tagging aspect. I chose this one because we haven't actually coded this one before. But all we're going to say first is if the game is not on, let's return. So we want to get this event down to our game. So if the game isn't on, return, we don't care. If event.getEntity is not an instance of player, let's return. This means the person that got hurt. If the person who got hurt is not a player, then we don't care. Similarly, if the thing that hurt our player is not a player, we don't care about it. If a zombie hit our player, we don't care. We only care about if a player hit another player. If that happened, then we do event.setCanceled to true. because we know they're in the game because the game is on. We know 2 players hit each other, so that means they're playing tag. We set true, and then most importantly, we need to actually check if our player is, you know, it. So if the damager does not equal plugin.game.get it, then return. All right, there you go. I'm pretty lazy person, so I kind of just put the cast of a player to the event.get damager. I mean, not the bigger difference if you create it or not. But if our damager is not the person who's it, then return. We don't care about them. However, if it is, then we get that damager. We get the person who was it and set glowing to false. We set plugin.game.tagged. Who did we tag? We tagged the event.getEntity. Make sure you're casting player to that because it is a player that we need to pass in. All right. Last but not least, bucket broadcast message. Chatcolor.gold. All I want to say in here is really player event.getEntity, and we can just say let's say like is it, I guess. So we're broadcasting to the server that a new person is it. A new person got tagged. If you want to, we can go ahead and do event.getEntity.getWorld.spawn particle. The particle we want to spawn is particle, and you can choose what one you want to do. The one I did in the beginning was flash. The second argument will be the event.getEntity.getLocation. It'll be a location of where you want to spawn it. The third one will be 0, and then remove all the other ones. We do not care about them. Alright, and that's all we need to do for our tag event. Alright, because the video is running a little bit long and I don't need to explain an on-join and on-quit event, these two methods right here are made because of sore losers and also because of newcomers. So when someone joins the server, we want to make sure they're included in the game. So let's go ahead and set that scoreboard to them. So we're just giving them a scoreboard. But if someone's quitting the server, this is kind of important. We need to check if they're a sore loser or not. By sore loser, I mean we need to check if they're it. So if the person who's it quits, then we kind of just end the game. I mean, if you wanted to, you could end the game and start a new one up with a new person that's it. You could do that if you like. I just went ahead and ended the game and made that. And I broadcasted that guy is a sore loser, so everyone knows. Like I said, pretty easy stuff. On join, on quit, just to make sure the plugin doesn't break. And then once we have all that done in our event class, let's go into our main class. Type in this.getServer.getPluginManager. Oh my god, we're almost done. .register events, a new tagged event. Pass in this. Go in the on disable and type if game.isPlaying game.end, and we are completely finished with this plugin. I know this episode kind of ran a little long. I'm trying to keep my episodes to around 20 minutes. I don't want to keep going up to 30 like my old ones, but this is a kind of like little big plugin, I guess. I call it the tiny game, obviously. It's a tiny game. It's a very small mini game, but it is pretty fun. I mean, it is a nice little game you can put in your lobby server to have a little tag game going, and you can award the winners and shame the losers. I'm gonna go put it on my server and we can test it out and see how it works. Alright, so I just started the game with /tag start. As you see, I'm it right now. I'm glowing. So if I tag someone, oh, there we go. And our message is a little off. Looks like I forgot to do a get name. But the person got tagged. And if I go to let me, if I go to this account and I tag CodedRed, he is tagged. So the only thing we really need to fix is this craft player get name. Pretty easy stuff. With that, all we need to do is go into our event, and we need to make sure that instead of saying get player, it says get player get name. So in our broadcast message, let's just make sure we surround this whole casting of our entity, and we type in .getName after, and that will fix our messages. And that's basically all we have to do. And if I did mess up in our message somewhere, just make sure you have the get name after the player. I try to move the episodes kind of quick, but at the same time, I want to make sure you understand how everything is working. If you have more questions about this plugin, feel free to join the Discord and ask them. Thank you guys for watching. It has been a CodedRed tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.